there and welcome to Travels with Geordie. If this is your first visit, my name is Peter Knowles and I live on a classic wooden motor cruiser in Victoria, British Columbia, along with the loving memory of my pup Geordie. Well, I'm not here now. I'm actually in Lund Harbor on our way north to Desolation Sound, and this is just one of my favorite little spots. Even live music over at the restaurant there. Beautiful. We're gonna have to jump back in time because of course this episode's gonna start off as we leave the hollow, but we've had a great week since then. And it's back to Maple Bay. And rafted up with Scott. And there we go. Good thing about Maple Bay is there's good cell service, which I think, as I mentioned, we both need for the next day or so. And great hospitality. And there is a pub. Sort of.
Never a dull moment.
Oh, Jedediah.
You are the first.
That's not bad.
Cozy.
From beautiful Princess Cove on Wallace Island, and I thought I might review the process of stern tying, a relatively common mooring technique here in the Pacific Northwest. And I'm not sure how common it is in other parts of the world. I understand some places in the Netherlands you bow tie. Similar technique, different end of the boat. So you can see this long yellow rope here that is connecting MV Zephyrus with the shore. The idea being you anchor out in the middle of the cove, and then with the dinghy or some other means get the stern line to a chain on the shore, or a pin, or sometimes a tree, whatever means you have, sometimes an old log. In this case, this is a provincial park, so a marine park, so that there are chains placed on the shore for us. The huge advantage of this in tight moorages such as this one is that the boats don't swing at anchor, so you can get a much higher density of boats in the same spot. The other big advantage, especially in a cove like this, and I'm not sure it's as well appreciated, is that cove is quite deep in the middle and has quite steep banks to the bottom, which make anchoring a bit difficult unless you happen to catch it right on the bottom, because on the swing of the tide or the wind you can pull the anchor off the bottom. And that's never a good thing. So I like stern tying. I like knowing that the anchor is always being pulled the same way all night, regardless of the direction of tide or wind. It means I have relatively good security, and it means, frankly, it's cozy. I like having the stern tied up against the shore, especially in a place like this where you have such a wonderful view. Anyway, let's go over the particulars of how one does stern tie. Basically, you arrive and you find your spot. Now, from the center of the bay here, the center of the cove, I need to use binoculars to be able to see those chains on the shore. So I try to line myself up and then imagine what the shape of the bottom is like so that I can drop the anchor on the uphill slope heading that way. So in this case, I'll watch the depth sounder as I move back and forth across the cove, and as soon as it starts to get shallower, that's where I want to put the anchor, because I certainly don't want to put it on the opposite shore where as I start to back on it, I'll literally just pull it downhill and off the bottom. Anyway, and then you back towards the shore. Now here comes the tricky part, especially if there's wind and tide and you're single-handing. You have to set the anchor towards the shore with exactly the right amount of chain and scope. Now in this case, you might see I'm a long way from the shore, and that's because the anchor set sooner than I expected, which is fine. It just means I have a lot more line out the stern, because Zephyrus has 100 feet of chain and I actually have it all out right now, and I didn't want to switch to rode. And because I have plenty of stern line, it was okay to do it that way. So the next trick is to jump in the dinghy with the yellow line and get to shore as quickly as possible before the boat swings much. And if it's really a tight anchorage, swinging can mean swinging into other boats. Now, if you have a powerful boat, like with a gas outboard, you can tug the mothership, in other words the big boat, in towards the shore. But if you have a tiny dinghy with an electric outboard, that is not so easy. But anyway, on the whole, it works well if you work quickly. So let's review what we've got down here. Basically, you're unwinding the rope off a spool as quickly as you can and getting to shore and heading for your chain. Now, depending on the tide, sometimes you have to climb up the bank a little bit for the chain. Last night, it was a lowish tide, and I did have to kind of step up the bank just a little bit. So you can see the chain here. There's a little bit of red paint still on it and on the rock nearby where it is. And there was a big shackle in the end. If I get a little closer without hitting the rock with the propeller, you can see here what I'm talking about. In this case, someone has actually added a piece of rope to ensure that's a bit more secure. Anyway, the shackle has the advantage in that it's a little softer on the rope. If you put the rope through a chain link that's further up, it actually will pinch down in here between the link you're in and the next link. So sometimes you can get into trouble with that. So it's nice to be in the last link. And sometimes people will put a piece of rope on like that. I'm not quite sure why this one's added on there, but which is a little softer on your rope. Okay, so then once it's looped around, let me try and not knock myself out of the boat while I make the turn here. Okay, so once you've got the line through the loop, you steam back towards the boat as fast as you can. By now the boat is probably swinging downstream or downwind. So at a certain point you may run out of rope before you can get back to the boat, and that's simply solved by just grabbing the rope that's already coming from the boat and abandoning the motor and simply pulling yourself back to the boat and bringing the other line back. I like to put each line on a separate cleat. I'm not sure why, it just seems to be tidier that way, and Bob's your uncle. Stern tying. I'll show you as we release it here. All right then, so the process of demooring or untying, I'm going to go start the engine. Lady Zephyrus is going to stand by on the foredeck to operate the anchor windlass, and I'm going to release the loose end of the stern line and pull it back into the cockpit promptly. Now, we don't have boats right now close on both sides of us, so there isn't a great concern for swinging, but I'll go through the process of doing it as quickly as possible anyway. So basically, as soon as I've released that line, I'll instruct Lady Zephyrus to start bringing up the anchor, not to haul the anchor, but just to crowd on it. In other words, to get as close to it as possible to limit the amount of swing we're doing. Plus, by pulling us forward, it reduces the side swing that we might have if we were in a high current or high wind situation. But again, there's lots of room here today, so there's no problem. I'm just going to bring all the line into the cockpit and then spool it onto the spool afterwards, because it's much quicker with our kind of crummy spool setup. Okay, I'm going to go start the engine. And after a quick confirmation that it's pumping water, we are pretty much ready to go. Always make sure that this goes off without a flipped knot or anything in it, because then it won't go through the shackle on the chain. All right, Lady Z. Okay, and leave the loose end somewhere where it's not going to tangle back into the pile. I'm going to go start driving. Coming up on Dodd Narrows, which is a narrow passage between Vancouver Island and actually Mudge Island, which is also adjoining Gabriola Island. So a lot of water comes through here with the tide, so you have to time it to catch slack, or at least slightly the side of slack that is the flow, the direction you're heading in, because this can run at 6, 8 and even more knots during a very high tide. We're just approaching just slightly after slack, picking up a little bit of flood, which is in the direction we're going, so it'll be pretty much painless. This will be pretty uneventful in terms of our passage. It's also known as a common route for the orcas, so there's always a chance you could see a killer whale here. And as I suspected, pretty uneventful. We came through at about a knot, maybe a knot and a half of flood. But sometimes the swirlies can get quite interesting. All right, in the distance you see the town of Nanaimo, which is our destination for some provisioning, but more importantly, some chandlery stuff that we need to work on the boat, because from here north, very limited supply of that. Done. And good morning from beautiful Nanaimo, British Columbia, where we spent the night largely to provision fuel, food, liquor, chandlery, and a fantastic bakery just 2 minutes up the hill, which we've just returned from. So we're set for a couple of days, because today we head off across the strait to Jedediah Island, which is completely remote and not much chance of provisioning for a couple of days until we get over to Powell River. I just want to mention this beautiful boat here. This is Nesika, 50 foot, built in 1933. It was originally built as a private yacht, but then it was sold to the forestry, BC Forestry, and became a forestry boat. And I was kind of confused, because when I first saw it, I thought it was one of the missionary boats that used to ply the coast, but it has that forestry boat look, and I kind of wonder if it might have been a template for it, because it wasn't originally built as a forestry boat. It just ended up in the forestry for a long time. Anyway, absolutely gorgeous boat, lovely people aboard. Put a link down below to their website, so if you're curious more about Nesika and its life, have a look at that. Anyway, very good. We're just about to slip our lines and then across the strait. But first up between the little channel, what they call the Nanaimo Channel, between Nanaimo and Newcastle Island, which I've always loved. I like channels. See you then. We'll catch you on the water somewhere. welcome to the Travels with Geordie Beer of the Week. Although this week, it looks like it's going to be a flight of beers of the week. Yeah, you can see Ladies Everest has chilled the glasses and the beers are very well chilled. So we're going to get underway as quickly as we can here. Now, this is a selection of beers from Phillips in their, what do we call this?
Octobox.
Octobox. And basically we had them aboard just in case we ran out of beer. And we've been kind of in this moorage for quite a while now. So we're down to the Octobox. Okay, I'm going to start on this side.
We're having a pub.
We are having a pub night. I was going to explain that as I poured. I wanted to get pouring here. So I'm pouring the raspberry wheat ale. And the reason we're having this flight of beers tonight is because we've been in this bay a little while and we're kind of yearning for a bit of a pub night. So we're going to have some pub food later, and we're starting off with a pub flight of beers. What have you got next?
I've got the white peach ale. It's called Solaris.
Okay.
Very summery.
These glasses are beautifully chilled. I like this.
They are too.
I'm going to move on to the Glitter Bomb Hazy Pale, which I've had before.
One we know.
Yeah, and it's pretty good. A little later on, we're going to, as I said, have some pub food, and that will be my sausage on naan bread with the ginger and maple syrup that I think I've shown you folks before. I've done an absolutely horrendous pour here.
That was pretty bad, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
How about this one?
What is it?
This is the Tiger Shark Pale Ale. Maybe there's something about Glitter Bomb that is a little bit balmy.
You can see some of them are a little harder to pour than others.
Yeah, just a little.
All right then. So should we try at least one to get started?
Yeah.
Where do you want to start?
Start with the...
Let's start with raspberry.
Okay.
Because it's down here and it's easy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
On the nose.
Very raspberry, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. It's refreshing. It's not too sweet or anything. It's
No?
raspberry-ish.
I was going to say it's kind of Kool-Aid.
Well, yeah, but we've had Kool-Aid.
That's
that
true.
was more
We've had worse.
Kool-Aid than
We've
that.
had worse. Very
How about this
drinkable,
one?
very summery, no problem there. We're jumping over to the peach.
Peach. Let's get the fruits done.
Yeah.
Oh, that's peachy. But you know what? You don't taste the peach. It's actually a nice summer beer.
That's not bad at all, actually. You smell the peach, but don't taste it. That's interesting. That's interesting. Before we get too far, I should probably announce last week's winner of a Travels with Geordie t-shirt, and the winner is The Oregon Guy. All one word, The Oregon Guy. I'm sure you know who you are. Get in touch with me. Make sure you get your shirt.
Oregon Guy.
Yeah. Tiger Shark?
Yeah, because we haven't had it before.
Exactly.
It doesn't smell like shark.
That's a good thing, probably. Or tiger.
It's good too.
Pale ale. I would call that just another pale ale. Would that be unkind?
It's a Phillips.
Yeah, it's Phil. Exactly. Okay, let's finish with the big win.
One we know. Glitter Bomb. You know, they're not all that different.
Wait a second. This used to be really good.
It's still good. It's good. It's just
We were offered Glitter Bomb in a restaurant in Sydney recently, and it was the best beer on the menu. And we thought
not that we
were
tried all.
not that we tried all of them, but it seemed like the best, and we thought it was going to be great. But anyway,
They're all good.
we
They're all
haven't-
drinkable.
They're
summer
all
beers.
drinkable, and they're all really cold
They're
because
chilled.
you chilled them nicely. So grab a glass to cheers.
This one.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers to.
Word of the week is what we need now.
Yeah.
I think it's obvious.
Shall I say it?
Please do.
Chill.
Chill. The word of the week this week will be chill. You know what to do with it. Cheers.
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 Chill.
See you next week.